This is Jenny Clark with Solvability, and we're at GovCon Summit 2021. And this is one of the sessions I am the most excited about because each of these entrepreneurs has been down the path with federal contracting and has a lot to share about what they're doing with it and how they use government contracting as a vehicle for other activities. And what I'd like to do is Kizzy Parks has K Parks Consulting, Erica Dobbs has Dobbs Defense Solutions, and Guy Juzang actually had Infinity Technology that he started, and now he's gotten on the other side of that. Going to tell us a little bit about his upcoming movie, First to Orion. So when you think about government contracting, yes, it might be a way to get started, but it could be a way that you could fuel your dreams. I'm going to turn it over to Kizzy.
Well, thank you so much, Jenny, for the introduction, and welcome to everyone who is listening. My name is Kizzy Parks, and I own K Parks Consulting as well as 2 joint ventures. And I'm just going to share a little information here because often, when it comes to government contracting, there's a lot of questions like, what does the government buy? How do I get involved? And are you sure they really buy this? And they really spend over $500 billion? Is that a real number? And so when I first started out, I was actually in graduate school. I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur since I was a little girl. I was always really inquisitive. And it was just this opportunity at now Patrick Space Force, where I was a graduate research fellow, and I ended up receiving my first subcontract there to provide data analytics, research, and some training and development services. I was right at the end of earning a PhD. I'd never served in the military. Many family members did. I never worked anywhere else. I had interned at Lockheed Martin for 3 months. So again, right before I graduated, I was given this opportunity to subcontract. And then what I did was I just learned as much as possible because it's not a linear path. As you're going to hear, we all have different stories, we have different experiences, and we all have a different why. And my why from the beginning was always to help people. Ever since I was a little girl, I knew I was going to have a PhD in psychology. I knew that I loved helping people, and I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. I always knew this. So when it came and has come to government contracting, the thing that's really interesting and I put out there for thought is, what is your desire? What are you looking to do or build, or what kind of life do you want? That's number one. Number two, are you able to pay your bills? So many people hear about this realm of government contracting and they don't think about cash flow. They don't think about profit. They're too concerned and worried about how are they going to pay their bills or how are they going to get a contract. And they're salivating over these contracts that they're ultimately not going to get and probably in a year from now won't be in business. And we don't want that. That's why we have this amazing GovCon Summit, so you can continue flourishing and developing and growing. So you have to make sure that you can pay all of your bills that are out there. And the third thing is you have to really figure out what kind of structure do you want for your organization. So for K Parks Consulting, initially, we started out in diversity and inclusion. I fit the part, that's where we started. And then in 2013, we pivoted, and that's when we received our first $4 million set-aside contract as an 8A. To date, I've been awarded well over $50 million in different government contracts, but we pivoted. So at that point in time in 2013, we started to offer a wide range of training, curriculum development, and full-time equivalents because I realized that was the way to really grow, to really scale, and to build out and eventually to have 2 joint ventures. So it's something to consider because sometimes when you enter this space, you think, well, my background's accounting, that's all I want to do. Okay, great. I'm not sure how far that will take you. Maybe it'll take you as far as you're looking to go. But a lot of the big companies out there, they are not just bidding on equipment or weapons. They are also bidding on admin and firefighters and horse trainers. There's so many things that are out there. And then I will say, the other thing for consideration is, especially in this landscape, you want to partner, you want to make sure that you reach out to others to see you know, where you can kind of pivot or where you can grow. And that really helped with our growth, is being in the All Small Mentor Protege program, being the majority owner of 2 joint ventures, and both joint ventures have over $1 million in contracts on both of them, has really changed us at another level, where now we offer even more products and services because of that relationship with our mentor. So, you know, before I hand things back over, I just want to end with, you know, please don't hesitate to connect with me on LinkedIn. I love being able to help. I love being able to provide any kind of assistance necessary. So please, you know, Kizzy Parks, look me up on LinkedIn, and don't be a stranger. And remember, you know, I say all the time, everything is possible. And this is possible for you too. You just have to have that desire, you have that faith, you have that fire, and you too can be very successful in government contracting. So thank you so much.
Oh, Kizzy, what you're talking about is so important. Kizzy and I met several years ago at University of Central Florida's PTAC with Steve South, and she was on a panel talking about her journey as an entrepreneur and how she did it. And over the past several years, obviously you've made a lot of success with the programs. And what you said you did is you broadened yourself and started to look at what's available and how we can do it. And that's really what it's all about. You may not know this, but Barbara Stankowski is on this chat as well. And I know I worked with her and you and had you on a panel in a previous year. So what I'd love to do now is call on Erica Dobbs. I heard about Erica from my friend Chris McPhee, who is my camera guy. He does all the video for this event and we'll be producing it afterwards. He said, Jenny, there's somebody I want you to meet. She is crushing it in federal contracting. You got to talk to her. Erica Dobbs, take it away.
Thank you for this time. And more importantly, thank you for allowing me to be a part of the GovCon Summit this year. I don't know if Chris spoke on that, you know, but we'll see what everybody thinks once I'm done. How about that? Kizzy, you know, you're a tough act to follow this afternoon. So I'm gonna give, look, as the new kid on the block, I'm gonna share, you know, my journey into this entrepreneur space of government contracting. My time started in 2019. And basically I was prior military. So I spent 36 and a half years in the Navy. And so my space in the Navy has always been in the IT arena and cyber side. So for me to make my decision as an entrepreneur, it was kind of easy for me, because taking what I've learned in the Navy and then repackaging it into a business. So on that quest of doing that, originally, I will tell you that I decided I was going to go work for someone else before I decided to become an entrepreneur and a business owner. And then as I was attending different interviews and preparing my resume, I realized that I would not be able to impact the government sector in the way that I would be able to if I was a business owner. And so it took me down to the thought of, and I use this analogy a lot, of 2 types of people who impact life and people who are the ones that really impact life. And so if you're impacted by life, you're an individual, like I said in the beginning, that you get a job, as Kizzy said, you're wondering about if you're going to be able to pay your bills. So you take that safety net and you go work for someone else. But for me, being a retiree, I was able to launch out my net and become an entrepreneur because I had the safety net of my retirement. And so whether or not I crashed and burned as a new owner, I would be okay regardless. And so as a result of that, I started Dobbs Defense Solutions. And Dobbs Defense Solutions, we provide cyber niche services. And so for me, going into this new arena, it was a little different for me coming from government and now going into contracting, because it's like apples and oranges in a lot of ways. And so as a result of it, I went back to school. I'm attending Western University, and I actually will be graduating this May actually with my degree in acquisition and procurement, because I realized understanding the FAR is important in knowing what you can and cannot do as a small business. But unlike others in the contracting world, you listen to, I know for me, when I first started out, a lot of people were just spoon feeding me information. But for me, I wanted to be able to understand what was being told to me and knowing what not to do and what to do. And so I thought it was beneficial for me to understand what it means to be in government contracting, but more importantly, understanding the FAR and the DFAR. Because when you're going into these basic like relationships, as Kizzy mentioned about being in the All Small Mentorship Program, you need to understand what your rights are. You need to understand what's available to you, but more importantly, you need to understand the legality of it as well. And so in small business contracting, if you don't understand the legal side of government contracting, you're going to get in a world of, you're going to end up in a bad place, I would say. So for me, as a business, doing government contracting has been a joy because I'm able to give back to my own brethren and, in the military, veterans. So 85% of Dobbs Defense Solution, we are veteran company. So 85% of my employees are veterans. And so I am very grateful for that. As far as our contracts, we started out doing artificial intelligence and machine learning assessments. And then we've grown into doing really niche cyber operations and cyber effects type work within the government environment. So Jenny, anything else you want me to elaborate on? I don't want to overtalk.
No, Erica, that's fabulous because, you're telling people, you're kind of reminding people that they need to take a think about what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, where do they want to grow and how do they want to do it? And what you said is, I could have gone to work for a contractor and I might have learned enough, but I decided that I could have more impact and give back to the community that I wanted to. If I went back to school and learned it, I'm thinking this would be a fabulous teammate to have. And that's really one of the areas that I think is so important right now is the opportunities under the All Small Mentor Protege and joint venture. So let me tie together what Kizzy and Erica are both talking about. Under the All Small Mentor Protege, a company can be formed that is a joint venture that inherits the socioeconomic qualifications of the small businesses and can be more than one. And we'll have Richard fix whatever I'm saying wrong, Richard Arnholt with Bassberry Sims. I look at it as a real opportunity because many companies in the 8A program reach a peak where they cannot grow because they have to show they've got commercial contracts. Well, if you're all in on federal contracting, you do not have time to chase commercial contracts and the pricing structure is totally different. And so companies will waste a lot of time. They might go after state, and I've seen some success with that because you've got to get big contracts with a long, the reason people go into government contracting is these are not short jobs. You get on a contract and you can get 2 to 3 years, you can get a 5-year or whatever, but you're spending so much money to capture and go after and win that you can't afford to go after the small stuff. It's a real advantage now for All Small. And the other thing about it is, if you're in the All Small Mentor Protege and you're the controlling partner of the JV, that's a really good place to be. But you have to set up an entire accounting system. You have to do all of that stuff. And a lot of times there's discussions that you don't know to ask about what's going to be the work share, how are we going to split it? If we make money in the joint venture over and above what we plan, how are we going to do it? Who's going to bill the joint venture for accounting services? And what if the other partner like overcharges? There's so much room for conflict in there. So I'm fascinated about it. But the reason people do it is because as an 8A, your money under a joint venture is commercial work because you're a sub to the joint venture. And Erica, in your acquisition program, I think between your Navy experience, your cybersecurity, and this acquisition degree, you would be the most amazing teammate. Do you realize how awesome you are?
Well, thank you, Jenny. That's amazing that you said that. I do want to, can I add something to what you brought up earlier about being difficult to go into the other sector as far as commercial from GovCon? I do want to say that we as Dobbs have learned that to get some past performance as a small business, going after those small opportunities in the state and federal space has actually helped us in giving back. We've done work with the United States African Development Foundation and also with the public school sector as well. So not just pigeonholing myself into the GovCon space, I've found has been very beneficial for me because, you know, let's face it, government contracting is difficult to break out. It's difficult to get past performance. If you don't have strategic partners and strategic advisors, you're really not going to make it. And so in order to make it, you really have to have past performance. That's the only Achilles heel, I think, that most people don't realize you need in order to be successful, because you can go after contracts all day long, but if no one knows who you are, if you don't have the past performance, if you can't prove to them that you can do the work, you're probably not going to get it.
That's right.
Well, that is a great point. And I've been talking to other people about that have found the state route to be very good. And I know Granita Griffin with OTS is on, and they've got a contract with the state of Texas. So we'll have to make an intro after this to that. And what I'd love to do now is, I know this is kind of changing the topic a little bit, but I'm going to bring on Guy Juzang. And the reason for bringing on Guy, so I was in Huntsville, he was in Hasbat, met a lot of people over there, and I realized something big was happening over at Infinity Technology. So I found a way to meet Guy. And at that point, I was setting up accounting software for government contractors, which I certainly do some of that now. But the whole idea is I want to help companies be able to scale. And in order to do that, you have to have very specialized accounting processes. And so Guy and I work together to put in accounting systems. And I've watched all of this go on. I've moved from Huntsville, then I haven't been there. I hadn't talked to Guy in 20 years. I saw a post on the LinkedIn, reached out to him. I said, Guy, you're making a movie. Tell me more. Start wherever you want to, Guy.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to Jenny for allowing me this opportunity to speak with your organization. And I also believe you're doing a great job. You're a great blessing to the government contracting industry. I think government contracting is a great way to build generational wealth, first of all. So I just believe in the entrepreneurial spirit. Not that you have to start there. Working for somebody and learning the ropes and so forth has its place, but ultimately I believe most of us should be entrepreneurs. My wife and I started Infinity Technology way back in 1989. We ran the race for 23 years. We became the #1 small business in America for the designing the operating system of the F-22 with Lockheed, which they nominated us for. And we were cited by the President of the United States and Congress for that work. But that F-22 opened the door to so many other opportunities. 13 different weapon systems we worked on. Both my wife and I have a software background. So software was our main common denominator, but I mean, we went into healthcare, like Kizzy and Erica said. It's so important to be service oriented, to be visionary and reinvent yourself, and have an open ear and eye for other opportunities that you might not be the greatest in, but teaming with somebody, like you said, or looking for that common denominator on what you already do to look into other opportunities. So I noticed one thing I'm going to get to first to Orion, but I noticed one other thing you asked was the challenges of entrepreneurship, federal contracting. Well, in general, the challenge to entrepreneurship, I have found out after being an entrepreneur for 32 years, is that I was the biggest challenge to the company. I was the biggest challenge. It was me. It was my spiritual, my emotional, my mental, my physical, even physical health can affect how you perform. But it was those things, health-wise and attitude-wise, that determined my altitude. So I want to say that keeping yourself healthy in all of those aspects is the biggest advantage you can bring to the table for your company. Now, after saying that, I would say never give up. I have a little comment here. It says, a hive of bees flies over 50,000 miles and visits 2 million flowers to make 1 pound of honey. And I know that seems like a small return on the investment, but the effort but that is the power, but it shows the power of commitment. And I always tell people to never give up, because the darkest part of the night is just before the day. And sometimes you're right at the precipice of that opportunity and you don't know it, but you give up and you miss it. So saying that, reinventing yourself and encouraging others is the biggest aspect of being in business to me. Um, I thank God for the opportunity. My three daughters sang for President Obama's reinauguration, and they sang for generals here in Huntsville. And they're just an amazing little group. My son is going into government contracting, by the way. Um, I have a movie that's come from out of this being in business and government contracting. And I've even influenced a nephew who just made his pitch this morning to go and to leave the UCLA Bruins. His name is Johnny Juzang, and he's going to become an NBA player. So we can influence other people to do great things by being successful ourselves. Thanks to God for my success. But I do want to say, so what we did was, one day I was hanging up the awards from Senator Kerry flew a flag over the Capitol, and I'm hanging up some of the awards on the wall. And I vividly got this impression that I'm going to win and influence more people with this movie than with a brick and mortar building in the second largest research park in the country, which is here in Huntsville. And so I started writing the story because I used to wonder why we went through so much through the business. We had great successes, but we went through a lot of traumatic experiences, one of them being investigated by the FBI, actually. I sweated out a whole t-shirt the night before I had to go into the FBI office. But in the movie, we draw it all out, you know, knocking down doors and all this stuff. But really, the fact of the matter is we got off in 30 minutes because it was a ridiculous claim, actually. But things like that. There was one time we were going, Jenny, you know, if you have even a delayed payroll in government contracting, you're out of there. I mean, they just bring in the next contractor, you're gone, that you never heard of again. But we were facing a delayed payroll. And I asked, I don't know if you've ever heard of Bill Vardaman, but anyway, he was my consultant. He was a principal investigator that ran experiments up on the shuttle and worked for us because we worked for NASA. And he told me about a friend of his that had a company like ours way up in Boston. And so I called the guy. This is a 3-day appointment, if you will. The first day I called him and introduced myself and told him who had referred me. And he said, "Oh, okay." The second day, I lost my nerve and got off the phone too quick. But the second day I called him back and said, "Hey, I would like to come up there and talk to you personally." And he was like, "Well, yeah, sure, come on up." And so it was Boston. I caught a plane. The third day I went up there and sat in his office and I told him what was happening to us. And he said, "Man," and he even got kind of teary eyed. He said, "Man, I went through a similar experience, challenge. And I had some wealthy friends and I knew they were wealthy and they said they were my friends, but they didn't help me. I had to pitch my pennies together with my employees and we made it through. But so I wouldn't have to go through the trauma he went through. He was so passionate and compassionate, rather. He invested $500,000 in our company. I only knew this guy 3 days. And I was so amazed that he did that. And he saved our company back in it was a little bit after we had won the F-22 work. So anyway, we lasted another, I don't know, probably because of his generosity, we lasted until 2013, which when we sold. So I was hanging up the awards and so on and so forth. And I wrote the script. I have a cousin who has 34 Academy Awards with Paramount Pictures. And he sat his children down and read the book and he made them read it. And he called me up and said, "Guy, Hidden Figures was not that difficult to do." He said, "You need to do a movie and I will help you." And so now we have 2 producers, a director, and we're making bids to people like Idris Elba and Regina King. And so pray for the movie that we'll get who we need, but we're on the precipice of making it a movie. And First in Ryan is about the success and the trauma, the challenges that we went through in Infinity and still came out on the other end kicking and screaming.
Well, it's just such a fabulous story. And I liked what you talked about, just starting off with your creating generational wealth, because that's what we have to do to impact change in our society. Because when somebody has a job and they don't have to worry about X, then they can create and develop so much more. And when you talk about having a movie about this, one day I found a novel and the topic was government contracting. I was so excited, a spy novel about government contracting, but they ought to be a novel about federal contracting. And maybe that's the book we're all going to write together. Everybody write a chapter, because that's how we got to this particular event. Is I just said, everybody write a chapter, because everybody goes through such a challenge becoming an entrepreneur and wanting to find the right path and what's going to work. The other thing is, as you do it, you have to keep looking forward and not show the fear on your face.
Yeah.
That is so hard to do.
Right.
And when you have somebody that understands you well enough, that says, I have no idea who you are, Guy, but Bill Vardaman said I should talk to you. I'm going to have that conversation. Right. And what guts it took to get on that airplane and do the big ask.
Yeah, it was difficult, but hey, it was worth it.
Yeah.
Everything hung in the balance.
Yeah. And, I've heard this story so many times before. What people don't understand, the impact of small business is that when you're small, you don't have past performance. You could win a contract with 50 people. If you're not working with a bank or somebody that understands how that works, they're not going to give you a line of credit. They don't understand your business. Well, you haven't been in business. You haven't been in business 2 years, or you've been in business 2 years, but I don't see enough profit, which is worse. What they do is they say, hey, buddy, I got all your financials and I sent it to the committee. They come back 3 weeks later. Oh, well, those financials are now 30 days late or 30 days old. Could you refresh it? And you're on this wheel of pointlessness.
That's right.
And the whole point of GovCon Summit and the community is, it's very hard for small business owners to advise each other until you've gotten to a point where I've been there, I crossed the threshold, I'm over the river, and I can whisper in somebody's ear and say, here's what I'd say you should do. Because I would never, as an entrepreneur, have the guts to call somebody up and say, you won't believe how screwed up this thing I just did is. I don't know how to get out of it. Right. So it's almost like this is a place where I want people to anonymously tell me what their things are, so I can anonymously say, hey, somebody called me yesterday and asked me this. I don't know the answer, but if I ask the group, we're going to find it. Kizzy, tell me what you think.
Think about which topic?
Oh, about how do we make it so that more small businesses can succeed? Because you've been on the other side. I know you advise a lot of them too.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, because typically, well, first off, the majority of businesses in the United States are small, and about 60% of them are not profitable. So I would say it's a big issue in general, whether it's government contracting or you're involved in another industry. But one way to really help small businesses is to set realistic expectations. I think what happens is, or what I have come across, there are those that learn about government contracting. Maybe they work in an environment for the government. Maybe they work for a government contractor, maybe a family member, and they think, you know what, I can do this. I can just do this and I can win a bunch of contracts, and this is going to change everything. I can have the life I want to live. I can work 4 hours a week, and I'm going to set up my entire, lineage because I'm going to get into government contracting. And so I think the skill that's really needed is around being an entrepreneur. and that people, I think, underestimate what it takes to successfully operate a business. And that is having that entrepreneurial spirit and the skill set, because I think people get so caught up in, oh my gosh, I can get $100 million contract. I can get $1 million contract. I can have money coming in for 5 years. Sign me up. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. And then when it comes down to all of the different areas, like those that were shared in the chat, you know, about integrity and leadership and sales and client relations and culture and payroll and, you know, what is your strategy? How are you going to continue bringing in revenue? What is your profit margin? Then everything falls apart. And then it turns into, well, I had a contract. And then what happened? Well, the contract ended. And probably the business too. So those entrepreneurial skills are really important. You know, I encourage people to just read books. I love Gary Vee. I think he's a great resource for those who are out there. I think also Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill is an awesome book to read. And to really surround yourself around entrepreneurs. They don't have to be in government contracting. You can find them on Reddit. You can find them in a Facebook group. You can find them even on TikTok or wherever you like to go online. And just surround yourself with people who understand and who really get how to make a business profitable. So then you're able to succeed in this space.
Well, those are great points. And I'd love to call on Erica next, because Erica, you said I'm in and talked about the roadblocks, the clearances, the financials, the vehicles. Tell us a little bit more about your thoughts on this.
Well, you actually, Jenny, hit one of my sore spots when you was talking about the funding, because being a business with less than 2 years in business, no one wants to help you. But they'll tell you, you go to the seminars, you go to the meetings, and they will all tell you, yes, we help small business. Yes, we'll fund you. And they waste your time by having you to send in all your financials, your resources, and then only, like you said, only to tell you, well, you need this. Well, you know, it's always you need more. And so what I've learned is that no one really educates you when you're an entrepreneur that it's best to get all of the funding you need up front before you start on that beaded path. Because once you start the path, you're going to be investing in your business. And as you're investing in your business, you're using your own assets, which is going to be a strike against you, because that's what I experienced. So when you've spent hundreds of dollars of your own personal resources into the business and trying to grow it, it becomes a negative point of view from a banking perspective. They go, well, you're not profitable. As Kizzy just said, people will look at you and say, well, you're not bringing in any profit. Well, in order to make money, you have to spend money. In order to be successful as a business owner, you have to invest into your business. And so for me, that has been the biggest Achilles heel I've had, is that I ended up funding everything on my own. And then the other part of it is that most people don't think about, when you're doing government contracting, yes, you won this big contract, but how many weeks is it going to take before you get paid? How many weeks is it going to take before someone, before you can say, okay, we're good. We can make payroll. As Gary Guy just said, someone helped him with the payroll. So I'll tell you, it's important to have strategic partners that are willing to help you. Because I will tell you, I have partners that I am so happy to have in my corner, because we were there as well one day. And I was sitting here thinking to myself, okay, Erica, you need $25,000. Where is it going to come from? And so I had expended all of my expenditures. And so what happened? One of my strategic partners said, tell me what you need. And they gave it to me that day. So that's what it means to know who you're working with and the type of people you're working with, because everybody, as Kizzy said, nobody else is going to really do that for you unless they are a real strategic partner. And then for me, the other issue is that as a small business that I'm noticing is that the consolidation of small contracts into large contracts. So it's killing the process or the possibilities of small businesses actually breaking out because everything's going to the large. So what is that doing? It's forcing small businesses to become more subcontractors as opposed to primes. It's impeding the process of you building your past performance. And then I know everybody's as a small is thinking about the CMMC process and how expensive it's going to be for the small businesses, right? And so to me, I'm like, why can't someone grandfather small businesses in on this thing? Why do we have to pay all this money? And so in government contracting, what I've learned in the past 2 years is that there's always something else that's sucking up resources that you really don't have to spend, but someone to say, oh, well, we'll be your CFO, but it's going to cost you. Oh, we'll help you with this, but it's going to cost you. So when you're doing small business and going into government contracting, you really have to have working capital. And if no one is willing to give you that working capital, then your purse string and your own personal finance become your working capital. But as a result of it, you're penalized. Once again, I just recently had someone to share with me. They said, well, Erica, have you paid yourself a salary yet? I was like, why would I pay myself a salary if I'm the one funding the company? Why would I do that? It doesn't make any sense. Am I going to pay my company to pay me back the same money I just gave them? There's no logic there. But because of that, you're penalized. And so, you know, for me, I just, as Guy said earlier, I pray a lot as a small business owner. When you're an entrepreneur, if you don't have a relationship with God, you develop a relationship with somebody because you pray a lot.
That's right.
You pray a lot, Jenny. And I think that it's important for the Audible offices and the small business offices to really be realistic with the small businesses that come to visit with them. You know, don't just collect the capability statement and say, oh yeah, we'll get back with you, or we're going to help you with this, we're going to help you with that, and never really, nothing ever really materialized from it. You know, sometimes it's like, where's the value of actually even going to visit with them?
Right.
You know?
Well, I think that's a really good point. Hey, Guy, how about some more insight from you on what they've just shared?
Yeah, I mean, entrepreneurship is not for the weary or the, you know, the scary. It's serious business. But it has such great rewards too. I mean, I look back and I see people now that are now managers and you know 15s out at Redstone, and you know they started at our company, and it makes you feel so good. I mean, you can't be God giving. I mean, if you go into business with a service kind of mentality, my mother used to say when she had problems, she said, I would go out and help other people, and my problem would go away. And there's a lot of truth in that. I mean, there's a system above my pay grade that that's that e- that that the economy of that system is based on faith and giving versus getting for yourself and hoarding and just, you know, going off the seat of your pants. So going into business is serious. I mean, you need to do your business plan. You need to have working capital first. We didn't. My wife and I put our pensions in. I think I put in like 16 or 17,000 and she put in 24 or something like that. And we started with our own money. And we never, you know, we paid 61 years worth of Christian education for our 4 children. I mean, that was a great deal. That was worth it. But we didn't sell and become millionaires like some of the other folks here in Huntsville did, because the recession hit in 2008 and 9. I'm just going to be frank. You know, there was a lot of backlash for Obama being a president here in Huntsville. And so they took it out on Black-owned companies. And that's a fact. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's true. But like I said, if you have the mindset where you're going to reinvent yourself, you're going to be a visionary, you know, if you have that mentality of service, other opportunities will come for you. And you know, you just have to keep that entrepreneurial spirit. Where the movie came to us, and some folks would say, okay, write the book first, you know, or do this first. But my North Star was telling me, no, go ahead and get the movie started. Go ahead and get you some producers. Go ahead and get the director. You know, the entrepreneurial spirit told me to get going, you know, to go out on faith. And now, you know, we have the script written. We're talking to Judge Mathis is on our team. A 34 Academy Award winner is on our team. By going out on faith, I'm talking of not blind faith, I'm talking calculated faith, but going out, you've got to take those steps forward and not just be a person who's always thinking and analyzing, but never moving.
Wow. Now that's a great point. It is always about staying in motion and everything. What I'd love to do is change all this back to gallery view, and let's have some more questions and have some more discussion. I really love what everybody has shared and learned a lot. And I think that the interesting part to me is thinking about what else can we do to help each other move forward. So let me see if I can. I got it. Alan Elliott, I see you here on, and I'd love to call on you after I call on Christy Pittman. Christy has been in federal contracting for quite a while. Christy, you have a question for our guest today? Or did you wander off? Okay, how about Alan Elliott? Come on and see if you got a question for us. There's Christy.
Jenny, I apologize. No, I don't have a question.
Oh, okay. Well, so Alan,
I'm enjoying this very much. Thank you to the speakers. Go ahead.
Alan will come on. What's up, Alan?
Hey, how you doing, Jenny? How's everybody doing today?
We're doing great. I think you guys should put your cameras on. But anyway, so Alan has been coming to Freedom Fridays, and he's got big signs in the back of his and behind him when he's in his office. And I just love them because they're always inspiring to me. It's like, whatever you do, don't quit. Right, Alan?
Right. I'm actually in the kitchen right now. I just want to have my camera on, but once I get in the office, I'll definitely put that up.
Well, good. Belinda Barnes, you were on yesterday, and Belinda's up in Michigan, right, Belinda?
Yeah.
Got any questions or comments you want to share?
I think it's wonderful for the guests to share their story with us. And again, I think like Kizzy said, it's not easy, right? Like it's certainly not easy, and you've got to just stay the course. And Kizzy, when I first joined, you were talking about mentorship. Can you elaborate on that? Like, where'd you find your I'm trying to find the perfect, not even perfect match, but the perfect like-hearted person that's going to give me what I need. Like my business is a recycling business, and eventually I'm going to go into manufacturing with those recyclables. So I think the perfect fit would be a manufacturing mentor. And I don't know if I think the last person that I spoke with who was mentoring split hairs, I believe. Like, I believe a manufacturer can be a manufacturer. So again, I'm in Michigan, right? So the examples that I have for manufacturing are the big three in car sales and car manufacturing. And I know even back when we had World War II, they were able to go from making cars to making tanks. And then now they're making cars to making ventilators. So to me, I shouldn't have a mentor who does plastics because I'm doing plastics. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to find that perfect fit, and I'm a little bit frustrated.
No, it is. It's extremely frustrated, Belinda. I'm actually originally from Michigan. My family's on the west side, but I was born on the east side of the state. So I totally understand. And so when I mentioned when I first started out, I was like learning all this information. And what I did is, at that time I lived in Central Florida, and I became heavily involved with women in defense, as well as any and all government oriented communities. And I say that because they all have different names. They all not only vary by state, but sometimes you find out somebody rebranded themselves, right? So what I ended up doing was starting to then, I would reach out to business owners. And I would say, hey, I'm new to this, or can you help me? I would love to meet with you. Can I take you to lunch? And through my networking, I met a woman at the time. Her name was Teresa Farmer. And she was such a sweetheart. And I met her at every single government networking event. I always saw her. And I remember one time she invited me to brief her boss at the time at AMTIS, Barbara, and to just give a brief. We were really, really, really new then. And I met Barbara, and I remember just being so in awe with all that she had established. And then I kind of went about my way and, went the direction that I went. So then fast forward a few years later, I thought, we still have a few years on this 8A, I'm an 8A program. Why not see if somebody wants to serve as our mentor? Because I had heard a lot about mentor proteges, but I also knew that while you're looking for someone who's perfect, it's kind of like in our personal lives, like perfect is not there. And so you got to sometimes, maybe it's a person who also needs what you offer and they're good enough, right? And so on a whim, I actually reached out to Barbara through her website, and she immediately wrote me. And that was around 2017. And so at that point in time, I had grown exponentially. She had grown exponentially. And it turned out that while we were very similar, there were a lot of areas that we were kind of missing. And together we added a lot of value. And so it was great because she was, at the time, she was woman-owned, vet-owned. She was in Central Florida. She had so many more processes and procedures. She was ISO. And so that was perfect for me because at that time I had none of that. Now we do. And so so you also have to think of the trade-off that although you're in Michigan, keep in mind, I was in Central Florida. So what's important is identifying who are these government contractors. And if you ping me, whether in here or however, I can try and give you some list, but you can go through I think it's sam.gov and the small business dynamic search and look in Michigan, who are these businesses, and just reach out to them because you'll find some kind of connection, or maybe they'll say to you, listen, maybe I'm not the best person for you, but somebody else is. And that's going to be your key. Okay, that's your key. Just keep hitting that pavement in Michigan, throughout the state, even in the UP. Don't leave out the UP either.
Okay, thank you. And I've already reached out to you.
LinkedIn guy Juzang as well. I have a partner up there in Michigan that's very entrepreneurial and very connected. I'll see if I can get him to talk with you as well.
Thank you, Guy. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, there's so much more, and I'd love to keep everybody on for much longer, but I'm next up and I've got to breathe before I go on it too. Thank you so much to everybody for being on today. And I would really encourage everybody to reach out to the participants. There's a Whova app and you can connect with people. If you want to directly message me and say, I really like to talk to that person, I can connect people on LinkedIn as well. But the whole idea here is to create a community to support each other, because there's so much we all need to know in order to grow. And I love what Guy is doing with the output of the time he spent in federal contracting. And that's what we're all wanting to do, is have bigger impact. And Erica, you had so many great things to talk about. As far as that, I think those look like Instagram posts that we need to be making or something. The other thing, I don't know if you guys have been out on Clubhouse, but I'm definitely planning to be out on Clubhouse as we go into the next year. The other thing is, of the people that are part of this community, I will be setting up more ways for mentorship and coaching. I just don't know what it looks like yet. And I will be following up. So definitely want to talk to everybody about how do we make this community keep going at whatever level people choose to participate, because not everybody wants a monthly thing. Not everybody needs to be at everything, but at the same time, I really value everybody that's a part of this today. So thanks so much. I'm going to close this one out. Kizzy, any last remarks?
I think the only last remark is, I firmly believe everything is possible. Just seek it out, seek it out, seek it out. Don't hold back.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Thanks, Jenny. Thank you, Jenny.
All right. Thank you.
Good meeting everybody.